Hello everybody and welcome into the FastTrack Sim Racing Cup Series presented by the Alloy Wheel Repair Specialist. Tonight we take a step further in the battle for the championship as it is race 2 in the round of 8 next week at Martinsville. Going to be your last chance to get locked in, so why wait till then when you can make it happen here tonight? Thank you all so much for tuning in. You are watching Austin Green on Ghost Racing Network. Qualifying is complete. Drivers are down trackside and getting ready to go green at the last mile and a half that we will go to this season. Danny Gutierrez in the 08, he will take the pole, puts down a 32.920. It's going to be Michael Mueller for Riot Motorsports, the highest starting playoff driver in the field here tonight, as again, he will roll off on that outside pole. Austin Fitzgerald, he starts back in third. It's going to be Tyler Marble for Team Marble iRacing back in fourth. Jeff Marble, his teammate, in fifth. And then another one of the Dynamic Autosports veterans, Alan Pajari in sixth. GT Hawkins back in seventh with Quentin Clark in eighth. Tracy Powers ninth. And Jacob Musso rounding out your top 10. Moving on back to row number 6, it's going to be Brandon Saylor, the rookie, alongside the veteran Brian Conklin for Team Marble iRacing. Jared Bundy will start back from the 13th spot. Jeff Shutt will roll off to his outside in 14th. By the way, Jeff Shutt, last week's winner. And then it's going to be Ty Iopolito in 15th with Scott Glasso in 16th. Ryan Haynes for BMP in 17th. Kyle Oakley 18th. Jake Hickson in 19th. And Johnny Mahalchuk rounding out your top 20. Andrew Russo, Cody Matthews back in row 11. It's going to be Kenneth Bartholomew and Brett Spod in row 12. Row 13, Jake Hickson alongside, or excuse me, go back a little bit further. And I think we got that mixed up. Want to make sure we got everything right. Yeah, it was Jake Hickson a little bit ago. Apologize if I accidentally skipped that number 16 car. He was starting 19th. So it's actually going to be Thomas O'Hara and Greg Bartlett back in row 13. Anthony Hanley 27th. Mark Zabak in 28th. And then rounding out the field here tonight is going to be Jeffrey Souza. He will start in 29th. Taking a look at your race info, it's the BMP Homestead 200 here for the FastTrack Sim Racing Cup Series. Last 2 races of the season are going to be sponsored partially by BMP and then, of course, Capital Auto Group. So next week at Martinsville should be BMP, and then the championship will be Capital Auto. But 134 laps going to be the distance here tonight with 100% fuel, 4 sets of tires, no fast repair, 3 green-white checkers if we were to need them. All right, here we go. Just 3 races remaining in the season. Green flag is in the air. Second race in the round of 8 is underway. And a great restart as Danny Gutierrez leads them through the middle of 1 and 2 here for the first time tonight. Michael Mueller trying to get something working on the high side. Again, fresh tires. This track's pretty fast. The biggest characteristic about this place is really going to be the fall off. And how quickly these lap times do fall off will be the question. Austin Fitzgerald able to slot into that second position here. He'll dive in front of the 99 of Mueller. And here they come, working their way out of turn 4 for the first time here tonight. I thought we'd see a couple drivers struggle, getting a little bit loose, but that was not the case. So far, so good for everybody as Tracy Powers, Brandon Saylor, and Jared Bundy with a little bit of a bumper-to-bumper stack up there down the straightaway on the inside. They get it sorted out, and already you see pretty much the entire field single file on the bottom. Now, if you remember back a few weeks ago to Kansas, one of the tracks where we really saw drivers kind of have the option to go just about anywhere they wanted, Homestead is very similar. And you really start to open up the different grooves that you can work on this racetrack as the tires wear out. And boy, Austin Fitzgerald, look at this. He's trying to go up there and take that position away from Danny Gutierrez. We'll see if he can make it happen right here down into turn number 1. Since we're talking about the 2 different lanes, give you a little bit of a different perspective right there. As you see right now, most cars on the bottom, couple in the middle. I don't know if I've really seen anybody dare to venture all the way to the top just yet. Might be a little too soon for that, but the idea here at Homestead, a track that has progressive banking in both of the corners, is the higher up you go, the more bank the track's going to get. So if you get right along that outside wall, you're going to be able to run a little bit more speed and really get a lot more momentum than the cars ahead of you down the straights. But a lot of drivers like to keep it on the bottom with the way their cars will handle here in the short run. So we'll have to see if it kind of transitions that way as we get into the later run. Already 4 laps complete. Brandon Saylor, Tracy Powers side by side. We have not seen much separation back here for anybody that is pretty much outside your top 10. This is the battle for 15th. Scott Glasso, one of the playoff drivers, alongside the 17 of Kyle Oakley, who was eliminated in the last round. And then just behind those two, you see Ty Iopolito on the outside of the 39 of Ryan Haynes. That is, again, one of the BMP Racing drivers, co-sponsor, I should say, of tonight's race. Of course, his teammate Brett Spod. Now, I know we've said it before for some of the BMP races we've had this season, but if you have not had a chance to go check out Bushnell Motorsports Park and you live anywhere in Florida or even in the Bushnell area, obviously, make sure you go check those guys out, especially if you love racing. Get a little chance to do it in real life. With gas-powered go-karts that go upwards of 45 miles an hour. They've got long straights on that track, an overpass, a bank turn, and everything else you could want on a road course circuit. So again, make sure you check out Bushnell Motorsports Park in Bushnell, Florida. Again, thank you to them for sponsoring not just tonight's race, but from what I hear, next week's action as well. Tracy Powers, he's starting to shift up the racetrack here just a little bit, but it's actually Jared Bundy looking like might be the first car that we see trying to rip the wall here tonight. We're going to ride on board here with Jared Bundy through 3 and 4 and see if he does indeed stay to the top of the racetrack. You can see Tracy Powers, when he's running that line, it makes it really, really tough right here for Jared Bundy to get any clean air on the nose. And with that being the case, this car is going to struggle to make grip here after probably another handful, a couple handfuls of laps, once these tires start to really, really wear down. And so you look at kind of where we stand right now in this race and how long we got to go. The next question is going to be, how long does it go green, and when are we expecting that first pit stop? Remember back to Vegas, that was a pretty darn clean race, I would say, how quickly that one went through. And could see more of the same this week at Homestead. 1.5 miles. I would argue that it's obviously a little bit more technical, but still the same idea to a degree. So as Jared Bundy still tries to get it sorted out, turn our attention now a little bit back towards the front. Austin Fitzgerald still leading the field as it stands right now. He's got about a 0.3 of a second gap on second place rookie Michael Mueller for Riot Motorsports. And both of these two drivers trying to make it to the championship 4, as is Tyler Marble. So you see we've got playoff drivers as your top 3. Don't forget that any of the drivers you see highlighted in purple on the scoring tower are drivers that are fighting to lock in to the championship 4. And in fact, let's take you here to the side-by-side screen for just a moment and actually show you what the points are shaping up as with how it stands right now. Austin Fitzgerald currently your playoff points leader, and Jeff Marble in second, Jake Hicks in third, Tyler Marble fourth. And the big thing to remember from last week was Jeff Shutt, a non-playoff driver, got the win. So none of these remaining 8 drivers locked themselves in. So right now for Fitzgerald, Jeff, Jake, and Tyler, they're in position to advance, but not necessarily locked in. For Fitzgerald, you got to think he's in pretty good position, bearing nothing crazy happens over the course of, this week or next week. But then once you get back to Jeff, Jake, and Tyler, I mean, it's kind of a throw-out because Quentin Clark, he's sitting at 4,042 points. That's only 6 below the cut line. Tyler Marble 6 above. But then you look at a guy like Scott Glasso, Ty Iopolito, who are a bit farther out. If either one of those two gets a win here tonight, or even next week at Martinsville, all of a sudden that shifts one of the drivers who is comfortable on points out of the picture. That's why as you get further in the progression of the playoffs and as you go through each round, it becomes more and more important to try to go for that win and get yourself locked in so that ultimately, of course, you don't have to worry about some of the chaos that we see, especially in these crazy races. I mean, Homestead, relatively docile, but you think next week, Martinsville, with a chance of winning, you're in. If we see a couple of the drivers I just named, Glasso, Ty Iopolito, at the end of that race near the front, I'll tell you right now, they are not going to be taking it easy on anybody up there, as they will, of course, be trying to get to victory lane themselves. Danny Gutierrez, right now back in the 4th position, your pole sitter with a relatively good run still going here early on. Tyler Marble, that we talked about, up a position in 3rd. Fitzgerald, the biggest winner of your top 5 right now. Actually, he's tied with Quentin Clark. So both of those cars are up 3 positions from where they started this race at. GT Hawkins back in the 6th spot. Alan Bajari in 7th, with Tracy Powers in 8th. Jared Bundy 9th. And Jeff Marble, dare I say, struggling just a little bit here in the early going. 10th position, not a bad spot to be in at all for the 15 of Marble, but I feel like usually we'd see him a little bit closer to the front at this point in the run. But there is the onboard view for the captain of Team Marble I Racing. And Jeff Marble, as it runs right now, again, currently in the hunt for a championship, and right now has himself in the top 4 for points. But he'll tell you, he'd probably be the first guy of any of your playoff drivers to tell you that he does not want it to have to come down to Martinsville. He wants to get himself into a position where he feels good going into Martinsville. He can afford to have a bad night at Martinsville. And that's all going to start with the kind of run he can put together here tonight at Homestead. Jeff Marble, again, our first driver cam here tonight. Go back a little bit further, just a spot further, as a matter of fact, to last week's winner. And that is Jeff Shutt for Capital Auto Group and No Excuses Racing. And unfortunately, it looks like we're having a bit of an issue pulling up Jeff Shutt's driver cam right now, so that is why we don't see Jeff pulling up on the screen. We'll get back to him, but again, man, what a win that was for Jeff Shutt last week, getting the job done at a track where, you know, he was pretty good at most of the night, but really able to capitalize after the final green flag pit stop. Man, you know, he's wondering what if, though, if he could have still been in the playoffs, could have had himself locked into the championship 4. Here's Tyler Marble in the 3rd spot. Again, we talked about him being up a position from where he started this race at. You know, we were just talking about Jeff Shutt, but how about his teammate, Johnny Mahalchuk, going slightly in the wrong direction right now as he sits in the 21st position, down a spot from where he started this race at. As you can see, doing that. I'll tell you what, Johnny told me the name of it one time, and I don't remember if I got it right. I thought it was something like the Arkansas Tug or the Arkansas Pull, something of that nature. Either way, I just call it the way Dale Jr. used to drive, which originated back from another driver, but where you take that right hand as you get into the corner and just drag it over to the left side of the steering wheel. See Johnny McCulchuk using that driving style. And then 2 of the other driver cams that we have here tonight for BMP Racing. Ryan Haynes, he's carrying an onboard view for us here tonight. And unfortunately, it looks like we're having a little bit of trouble with Ryan Haynes' driver cam as well. So that'll take us over to your final driver cam here tonight. And that is the 12th place running car of Kyle Oakley. Currently sits up 12 positions from where he started this race at. And you just saw something interesting there. You saw him kind of reach down at that sequential. I don't think the drivers are shifting here. However, I'm not sure. We've seen different setups, and there could be. So let's watch him here down the straight. Let's see if he does indeed grab that sequential. Yes, he does. So Oakley's going to pull it back, shifts up to 5th. Then as he gets down in the corner here, gets off the gas, puts it back down to 4th. And is running that middle lane right now, kind of trying to keep the left side tires on that first seam. So that just adds another thing to the mix. And man, I'll tell you what, I feel like, you know, even up here in the booth, kind of take it for granted sometimes just how talented these guys are. It's not like the old days, which, you know, believe me, those cars were hard enough to drive, but it's not like the old days where all you had to focus on was driving the steering wheel, making adjustments to the throttle. Now you got to think about shifting in these corners, and you got to be precise when shifting. You shift too early, potentially blow a motor. You shift too late, you're not going to make speed in the corner. So there's just so many factors in this new era, this next-gen car that, you know, even though we're a couple years in the books now, drivers are still kind of trying to get used to. And shifting is certainly one of those topics that's kind of at the forefront of it right now. So the field continuing to spread out here with 19 of 134 laps complete. Here's the 08 battling with the 5. That's GT Hawkins, the rookie, who sits in 6th. He's up the spot from where he started this race at. Don't look now, but here comes the 34 of Alan Pajaria. We know he likes some of these mile-and-a-half race tracks with high banking in the corners. And right now for Pajaria, down the spot from where he started this race at, but clearly Dynamic Auto Sports brought some good sets here tonight. Fitzgerald leading the way, Pajaria running inside the top 10 as well. Now they're just missing their 2 other rookie teammates, Jake Hickson and Ty Iopolito, who sit back in 13th and 15th. And the mid-teens to late teens is really where we're seeing kind of all the battling right now, as that's a 15 of Jeff Marble continuing to fall in the wrong direction here. This 15 car, I'm not sure what the deal is, but this thing is just not quite holding the pace that he needs it to right now. Granted, he could be saving a little bit of tire. We expect that first green flag pit stop to probably not come until, if I had to guess, I'd say right around lap 55, lap 60. I think that's kind of my general range. I mean, last week at Vegas, a track that obviously had more throttle time, we saw drivers go even further than that. Some of the drivers that stretched it, that strategy, of course, didn't work out, but, you know, at most, maybe lap 65. Point is, from what we saw last week at Vegas, you would expect that this race will be a 2-stopper as well. And tires obviously matter a whole lot more here than they did last week at the Oval in Las Vegas. So what that means is that tire strategy could play a little bit more into the hands of the drivers here tonight and trying to determine the position at the end of the race based off when you decide to pit. So here's the mindset. You pit earlier, you get on those fresher tires sooner. You're going to get in front of a lot of the cars in front of you when everything cycles out, but then you're going to have to play some defense, especially at the end of the run, where the other side of that course you decide to wait as long as you can. When you come out, you're going to be behind a lot of guys, but you're going to be on the attack. You'll be on offense for the rest of that next run with fresher tires trying to track everybody down. And so we'll have to do some comparison of lap times here once we see that first pit stop of what it is for drivers on new tires versus old tires. But as I mentioned, this is one of the tracks where fall off is pretty much more than we see at just about any other track. So we'll see just how bad it ends up being here tonight. Tracy Powers all by himself on an island in the 8th spot. Jared Bundy still back in 9th. How about looking towards the back of the field here? Anthony Hanley started the race, but has not went any further. May have been a start and park for the 98 machine. And then in the 28th spot, Jeffrey Souza, 19 laps down. So he just recently made it back out on track. I'm not sure what happened here to the 96. That's a tough break for Souza, as he will not have a chance here tonight. After looking really good in Vegas last week, by the way, before the tides kind of changed with a bit of an issue on the strategy late in the race. But, I mean, overall for Jeffrey Souza, it was a phenomenal run, and 96 machine looked really fast last week. Hoping to see more of the same this week, but 19 laps down. Doesn't matter how fast he is, won't be able to get that back here tonight. Cody Matthews sits in the 27th spot, down 5 from where he started. Greg Bartlett, Mark Zabak, 26th, 25th. And you've got Kenneth Bartholomew, 23rd. Andrew Russo's in 22nd. Then Mahalchuk, 21st. And Brett Spod is currently sitting in that 20th position. So it's 25 laps complete. Ryan Haynes, 19th, by the way. But I talked about some of those drivers, or I guess I should say, since I did just talk about some of those drivers that are currently sitting a little bit further towards the back, the other battle that you got to, kind of think about and keep in mind is the non-playoff driver points battle. 7 of 10 races complete. Again, that'll wrap up here at the end of the playoffs. Brandon Saylor currently leads at 162 points. Christian Lostin still relatively close at 148 points. The problem is, for Lostin, he's not here tonight. One of the rare occurrences over the last month or so that we have not seen Christian. And so that's going to already put him even further behind as long as Brandon Saylor is able to have a decent run here tonight. And then you go back, Jeffrey Souza, 3rd. He's going to probably fade in points as, caution is out. Trouble. Where is it at? A little bit further back in the field here. We're looking for it. I'm not sure what brought this one out here. Looks like most of the field in pretty good shape here. I did not see who had the issue here. Oh, well, that's going to answer that question. The number 9 of Mark Zabak. Heavy damage to the left front of that race car. The suspension is completely destroyed. Wheels not even rolling. That's a major hit. You got to assume that's off the inside safer barrier. We'll go back and look at it here in just a moment. But for Zabak, this might be a night ender here. That front left wheel isn't driving. It's going to take the virtual mechanics quite a while to get damage that severe fixed up. Let's go back and look at it here, though. Mark Zabak, we had just talked about where he's running it. Oh, man, this one's going to be a yikes right here for Zabak. He's going to hit the barrels. Watch this here first from TV1. As he's working his way off of turn 4, gets loose, trying to save it, and oh, man. He doesn't take it head on, but still certainly a massive hit into those sand barrels. That's what does all that damage right there. Look at that. Our ricochets and then ramps off a bump that was somewhere down there by the safer barrier just past those barrels. Let's go back and watch it again here from a bit of a different angle. First, let's go to the cockpit view and show you here. He's just going to get loose. I mean, that's really all it is. And he's trying to save it. The problem is here, yeah, actually, I don't really know how to say in the sense of this is just bad luck in the sense of he saves it, but he saves it in about the worst place you possibly could. I mean, if he spins out a little bit more, probably goes down to the pits, he's okay. If he saves it a little bit sooner, keeps it on track, he's okay. Instead, he saves it right at the second where to drive out of it, he's going to have to tap those sand barrels. And, I mean, look at him. He's gnawing that wheel back to the right, trying everything to keep it off the wall here, but just can't do it. And that view, look at that. Look at the air the 9 car gets as he hits that bump just past the barrel. I'll show you that again. Watch this. Back this up a little bit more, and he almost got clipped after it, but Mark Zabak, lucky that he did not hit these barrels head on, but either way, the damage is done. Now right here, watch this. Bam, hits that bump. All 4 tires off the ground. Lands a jump. And then watch how close this gets here. As you're going to have one that has to sneak by on the top. That's Jeffrey Souza, it appears. Yeah, sure enough it is. And a nice piece of driving there by Souza to miss what could have been a pretty bad one for him. Even being 19 laps down, and give you another angle of it here. Wanted to see if we could actually see this contact here from pit lane 2. You're not going to see the start of it. Watch him come in a picture here, right there, and then hits that bump and just shoots the car up the racetrack. Again, very lucky this didn't collect the 96 of Souza. Here's what it looked like from his point of view. He's riding along on the outside, sees that 9 car start to come back up. and realizes he's going to have time to shoot the gap as long as he gets back in the gas. So that is exactly what he does. All right, so Zabak in the pits getting repairs. As meanwhile, up front, Michael Mueller currently being scored as your leader. Fitzgerald in second. Quentin Clark back in third. GT Hawkins in fourth. Danny Gutierrez in fifth. Then you've got Tyler Marble in sixth. Alan Pajari seventh. Jake Hicks in eighth. Tracy Powers in ninth. And Jared Bundy rounding out your top 10. It'll be 30 of 134 laps complete when they cross the line this time around. And of course, everybody went in that time for 4 tires and fuel. You can't not here at a track like Homestead. Tire fall off, we talked about it. It's just too much. And so with everybody going in there to top off on fuel and tires, that's what shook up this front few just a little bit. And now this is really going to change the fuel strategy significantly as well, because we're going to go back green here with, again, over 30 laps complete. In fact, looks like it's probably going to be 31 of 134 complete. That leaves us with about 103 to 104 laps to go in this race. You can make that on a one-stopper here. That's about 55 to 57 laps or so. So yeah, the answer is drivers are going to be able to make it. In fact, I said 50 to 55. I should say that's going to be probably about 50 to 53 laps of fuel that you got to make each run to make it to the finish. That should be plenty. And so all of a sudden that changes some things now, as that may ramp up the intensity a little bit, with drivers now knowing that instead of 2 pit stops to make adjustments and try to gain track position and try strategy, they're only going to have 1. By the way, if you're just tuning in or you've been here, certainly appreciate you hanging out. Again, you are watching the BMP Homestead 200 here from Homestead Miami Speedway. The second race in the round of 8 for the FastTrack Sim Racing Cup Series, and second to last race in the round of 8. Next week, it'll be off to the Paperclip Martinsville and then Phoenix a couple weeks after that to round off the season. I'll tell you what, I mean, what a great season it's been so far. I think one of the big things that, we don't think about a lot from week to week, that the league has certainly done a great job of this season is attendance. I mean, it's been each and every week through the regular season and then even in the playoffs, where usually you see kind of car counts start to go down. These drivers have stuck through, stuck strong, and they are still going to be hanging around for the rest of the way. Here we go. Green flag is back in the air. 31 of 134 laps complete. And it's a good restart for the 74 of Austin Fitzgerald. Watch him battle this 99 really hard right here through 1 and 2. He's going to want that clean air, and he's got the preferred lane as long as he can stay alongside the 99. Ooh, Michael Mueller all but clear, starts to drift up, but he realizes that he doesn't quite have enough to jump in front of that 74. He's got a little bit of a teammate push, if you will, behind him there. Quentin Clark going to try to slot in line here, though, behind the 74 off of turn 4. Just like that, Michael Mueller will take over the lead on this restart. Austin Fitzgerald going to settle back in here. Try to maybe click off a few laps, see if he can set up this 99 for a move a little bit further back. Still 2x2. That's the 34 of Alan Pajari, and Jeff Marble still on the outside. And boy, you saw a little bit of a wiggle right there for Jeff Marble coming off the corner. And that's not so much the car. Well, obviously it's car being loose, but that's not necessarily because of the setup. That's just cold tires. Still trying to get up to temp. Is speaking of cold tires, saw a little bit of contact there between Tracy Powers and Jeff Shuttis. I think Powers slid up just a little bit. Brandon Saylor, Ty Iopolito, 2 of the rival rookies in the series. 2 different teams, but 2 very talented drivers that made it very far this season. Iopolito still in the playoff hunt. I guess I should say the championship hunt. He's still in the playoff picture. And there's Brian Conklin, another one of the Team Marble iRacing drivers, sitting back in 14th. So these restarts have really proven to be pretty tough, fighting for track position. I mean, we've seen a lot of side-by-side sustained for quite a few laps, even up here up front. I mean, look at the gaps between really these top 6, top 7. Throw them all under a blanket. I mean, they're all within about a second of the leader, as we have now officially hit the 100 lap to go mark here at Homestead. By the way, keep an eye on when to expect that next pit stop based off the fuel numbers that I gave. And again, drivers can run it shorter or they can run it longer. But let's say you decide to split it right down the middle, which will be, I think, pretty close to when they decide to pit. We'll hold that thought here for just a second. As can Fitzgerald complete this pass? He's trying, and yes, he will. Gets clear, and he's going to shoot it up the banking off of turn 4. Nice move right there from the Dynamic Autosports veteran. Currently leads in the playoff point standings. But going back to what I was saying in terms of fuel, we went back green with 31 laps complete. You go about 50 to 53 from there. That takes you right around 81 to 85, somewhere in that range. I think it's when we would expect this this last pit stop. And so we still got a ways till there. So right now it's all about settling in, saving a little tire, but also getting some track position while you can, because you know it's going to be tough once these drivers start to single file out again and start to run a little bit maybe closer to that wall as the line and the grooves start to, I say widen out, but at the same time it kind of shortens up because, of course, as tires wear out, you can't move around the racetrack as much because you don't have as much grip in every lane as you used to. Meanwhile, Michael Mueller looks like he's maybe giving a little fight back here to the 74. Question is, who wants this clean air more? We saw how important it was at a track like Las Vegas last week. And you got to think it's going to be pretty much just as important here at a track like Homestead this week. And man, Michael Mueller right there got a big run through the center of the corner. And he's going to be able to actually hang with Fitzgerald pretty good on exit this time. See that big rear diffuser on the bottom of Austin Fitzgerald's car. And for Mueller that time, dives it in just a little bit deeper than the 74. Almost got to the back bumper. He's going to lift out, try a little bit of a diamond arc off of 4. Excuse me, off of 2 rather. Nothing doing that time though. They're still single file all the way back to the 37 here of Brian Conklin. He's still 2x2 with the Dynamic Autosports rookie of Ty Iopolito. By the way, how about the paint scheme for Ty Iopolito? This is one of the cars that we've seen run that sponsor all season. The Spartan Sim Racing Graphics. And his number 19 Ford Dark Horse Mustang looks very good in the bright yellow and gray. It's Ty Iopolito and his teammate Jay Kickson. Another driver who's ran a pretty much kind of one scheme deal all year, Dynamic Autosports. So the 2 rookies representing, and Jay Kickson with the bright yellow number there on the top of the roof. Help you identify just where that car is running on track if you're in the spotter stand. And then 17 of Oakley with the body armor sponsor here tonight, Jacob Musso just behind him. Jacob Musso, I'll tell you what's been, I think, kind of the biggest wild card story of the playoffs so far has been some of the non-playoff drivers that we've had win some of these really, really big races that in previous years have been kind of dominated by the playoff drivers. I mean, you think back to Talladega where Jacob Musso got the job done there on a last lap, pretty much last straightaway pass on the marbles. And then you think back to last week at Las Vegas, Jeff Shutt, he got the job done there. Again, not a playoff driver. And that certainly always changes the dynamic of, you know, how points set up, especially as you get closer to the end of a round. Right now, if you're in the top 4, you feel comfortable on points, but you know that if one of the drivers that are outside looking in can find a way to victory lane and you're on that final spot, it doesn't matter how many points ahead you are, you're going to lose that spot, get kind of shuffled out of the playoff picture. As here we go, 2 of the playoff drivers going back at it. Mueller had to give it up earlier to Fitzgerald, and it looks like he wants it back. The 99 on the inside here, going to be looking for a big run. How hard will Fitzgerald race him for this spot? Fitzgerald's going to pinch him down a little bit there through 3 and 4. And that's what I'm talking about when I say this outside line gets momentum. But how about that? Michael Mueller side drafts him down the straightaway. He says, I don't think so. The longer these two stay side by side, watch out, because the 5 of GT Hawkins, the rookie, he can smell blood in the water. He wants to grab this lead. He might have a shot at it, as look how close those cars work towards the outside wall off of turn 2. They'll do more of the same as they work down through turn 3 and 4. Mueller still on the inside, just can't seem to get it done down there. And I'd be taking notes, not just if I'm Michael Mueller, but really anybody watching this battle right now, that if you've got a fast car in front of you, it doesn't matter how fast you are, it's going to be pretty tough to make a pass on an inside line. We'll see if Mueller starts looking around to the high side here, or if he stays glued to the bottom behind the 74. And if you're Fitzgerald, I mean, your approach right now at this point in the race is nothing egregious, but more so just kind of trying to take away the line of that 99 through the corner. Get him caught in a little bit of dirty air. Get that car a little bit tight or a little bit free. And try to make him make a mistake, start to fall back, give you a little bit of breathing room. But Fitzgerald still looking very, very strong early. Again, hasn't found victory lane yet in this round, but would not be shocked at all if tonight was his night. He loves Martinsville. He says he likes all the technical tracks. He says he's not a big fan of mile and a half, but I mean, if you had to think of a mile and a half that was pretty darn technical, I think Homestead's got to count for that. Long straights, and again, plenty of banking in the corners, but they're still really tight corners, if you will. The radius is not as wide as it is at some of the other mile and a halves. That progressive banking, though, offering a lot of different options, and right now, the option on the bottom still seems to be the favorite. Tyler Marble in that 4th spot, Quentin Clark in 5th. The biggest mover, though, that we're seeing right now through the field is really not that impressive in terms of what we're used to seeing. GT Hawkins, he's up 4 spots, but that is the most positions anybody in the top 10 has made up. Now, further back, Jay Kickson He's made up 6, but he's still got a lot of work to do as well, as still trying to see if he can get by the 37 of Conklin, who he saw his teammate Taio Polito racing around with earlier. But it's been all Austin Fitzgerald to this point. I'm still impressed, though, at how close, relatively at least, about 5 to 7 cars back have been able to stay. And you have to go all the way back to the 6th place running car of Alan Pajari to finally find a car that is more than a second behind your leader right now. And again, this will continue to extend. The gap will grow bigger. But you wonder, did certain guys save some tire to try to catch this 74? Or can they stay up here long enough to the point where when we get to that next green flag pit stop, they're at least within range to potentially try to strike on new tires? I think that'll be the big question. But for Quentin Clark right now, he's got a good run going. Majari in 6th, Jeff Marble 7th, Tracy Powers in 8th, Danny Gutierrez in 9th, and Brandon Saylor rounding out your top 10. And as many drivers, as I've said, have had a good run going. In fact, Quentin Clark, Michael Mueller, prime examples. Great runs going right now, right? I mean, you think about Quentin Clark sitting in 5th. You think about Michael Mueller, he's sitting in 2nd. The problem is, when you get to these playoffs, good runs don't always cut it, especially when you get down to the round of 12, and even more so when you get down to the round of 8. I mean, you look at it right now, Mueller and Quentin Clark. Well, for Clark, he's only 6 out, so a good run may have a chance for him. But if Tyler Marble has a good run as well, it doesn't really do too much for Quentin Clark. But then you go back to Michael Mueller, he gets a 2nd place run. Well, that's great, but if the guys in front of him have decent runs, that's not really going to bring him that much closer to the playoff picture. What he needs is to try to grab a win here tonight so he doesn't have to worry at Martinsville. And at the worst case scenario, he's going to need a good run here tonight and a good run next week to be able to try to point his way in. Certainly would not count him out, though. We've already seen this Riot Motorsports group overcome quite a bit this season. Lost a couple teammates. Anthony Hanley still, of course, kind of the backbone for the setups for Riot Motorsports, but we don't see him race anymore either. So just these two. Boy, these 2 rookies have certainly not disappointed so far this season. Man, how sweet would it be if they could get both of themselves locked into that championship 4 at Phoenix. So you've got Brandon Saylor still rounding out the top 10. Then there's a bit of a gap to the back of Jared Bundy here, or I guess I should say from the back of Saylor to the front end of Jared Bundy. Jay Kingston back in 12th. Conklin 13th. Jeff Shutt's in 14th. For Jeff Shutt, he talked about that momentum being kind of huge last week. I thought we would see a little more pace out of this 27 car here early, but so far just hasn't been much else to get for Jeff Shutt yet. Taio Polito back in 15th. Jacob Musso 16th. Ryan Haynes sitting in 17th. Oakley back to 18th. And you've got Jenna Malchuk in 19th and Cody Matthews rounding out your top 20. Brett Spod 21st. Greg Bartlett 22nd. Andrew Russo's in 23rd with Kenneth Bartholomew 24th. And Thomas O'Hara blinking around a little bit currently rounds out your top 25. Souza still way away from the field. I mean, and actually, oh, look at this. So Souza's 18 laps down, but Scott Galasso, one of your playoff drivers, I mean, he started in here with these guys, but he must have had a technical issue that disconnected him or put him in the pits for a while, because he is, I mean, he's pretty much out of this race now with how many laps down he is. You saw it go by on the scoring tower. You'll see it again. Galasso's 15 laps down. And if there was, I mean, I don't think there was, but if there was any, kind of doubt about what the strategy was going to have to be for Galasso to be able to advance to the championship 4, there isn't any more. He's not going to have the opportunity to win here tonight, so that leaves just one option. Sometimes that makes it easier. When he goes to Martinsville, he will have to win, and if he doesn't, he will not be able to advance to that championship 4. Well, 51 of 134 laps now complete here at Homestead Miami Speedway. We're going to go ahead and take a quick break. We'll go side by side so you don't miss a thing. Stick with us. We'll be back at Miami.
in early 2020 by owner Kyle Souza. Souza Media has grown quickly over the past 4 years, now representing multiple champions across different series, from the local short tracks of New England to the high banks of Daytona Beach, Florida. Social media is an important way to draw in new audiences and increase reach, and with a new snappy, user-friendly website, Souza Media can boost your audience by using eye-catching graphics to gain recognition for your brand. Contact Souza Media today using our Facebook page or by email at kylesouzamedia@gmail.com to put your brand in victory lane. In early 2000.
Welcome back to Homestead Miami Speedway with the BMP Homestead 200. Well, if you're just tuning in, we appreciate you being here. Just got back from commercial break, and tonight's side-by-side action is brought to you by Souza Media, representing over 25 businesses and race teams throughout the United States. Souza Media can help expand your digital footprint. Souza Media provides websites, Facebook pages, and marketing proposals, boosting your overall audience. Reach out today by emailing kylesouzamedia@gmail.com or messaging Souza Media on Facebook. All right, well, you didn't miss much. I mean, still, for the most part, single file. We still got some passing going on, though, as the 15 of Marble here is going to look to the inside of the two Riot Motorsports rookies. How about a little 2-for-1 here? Can Jeff Marble make it work? It doesn't look like he's quite going to get both of them that time. Tried to slide up, got a little bit loose. And so he'll have to rethink his decision right there. But Marble's still on the inside of Quentin Clark right here. It'll be 59 of 134 laps complete when they cross the line this time. And, oh, man, Jeff Marble, hold on to it. Oh, the 15. What a big moment that one was. And I'll tell you what, I had the driver cam up and ready, and he did not flinch. What a save by the veteran for Team Model I Racing. It's going to cost him all sorts of positions. But he's lucky that that one didn't cost him a car. He got loose off of 1 and 2. But boy, he really got out of shape here off of 3 and 4. Watch this. You see him start to slide up, slide up. He knows there's a car up there, has to take it down. And man, wow, how close was that? What a save from Jeff Marble in the 15 machine. Looks like he has regrouped now, but he'll have some work to do if he wants to climb his way back to the front. Austin Fitzgerald currently being scored as your leader. And now we talked about, how close everybody had been staying for how long they were. Finally, things are starting to space out here and looking a little bit more like typical long-run Homestead. As, again, that gap's about 1.3 seconds, but 60 laps complete. That means we're going to be seeing what will be that final, the one and only, and, of course, the final green flag pit stop. Somewhere probably right around, if I had to guess, lap 84, maybe a little bit sooner. We already talked about, oh, man, speaking of big moments, Soldier... Boy, Austin Fitzgerald, I mean, from the lead, he almost just lost it. Watch this. This looks like Jeff Marble, except for your leader. Watch the cockpit view gets loose. Oh, man. Boy, he had to saw it, and you heard he completely let out of the throttle. That cost him about 0.4 of a second, but that's the smart decision right there for Fitzgerald. If he stays in the throttle, one of two things happen. He saves it, keeps a little bit more time, or he doesn't save it, slams the inside wall, and his race is over. So I think that was a really good judgment call right there by Fitzgerald after getting loose. But, I mean, man, to see that for not only Jeff Marble, but for your leader, I might start to be getting a little concerned for the rest of this field that these cars start to swing over to the loose side as this run continues to go on. I mean, we're not even technically to the halfway point in this race just yet. And we've already seen some of the issues that some of these drivers have had. So watch out for looseness to be an issue. And, that can obviously play a part in what pit strategy you decide to go with. If you feel like the car is really just not handling the way you want it to, maybe you pit early to try to make some adjustments. Whereas on the flip side, you set your car up good on the long run, save some tire early. Maybe then you feel like you've got something to work with late in the run. You try to pit a little bit later than everybody else. And right now, Tyler Marble wrapping the bottom. He still looks pretty darn good up here. He closed that gap a little bit. The other driver who's looking good is GT Hawkins, but he's doing the opposite. He's running the top. And watch it here from the two views. Tyler's going to go into the corner. Well, that time the 48 is going to take a little bit of a later arc down to the bottom. GT Hawkins going to go to the inside as well. And the other thing that's interesting is, you would think to yourself, well, looking at the track, I mean, 1 and 2 runs the exact same as 3 and 4, right? Not really. There's actually a little bit different characteristics. They run very similar, yes, but there are certain drivers who will run a different approach through 1 and 2 than they do through 3 and 4, and certain parts of the racetrack where maybe they feel a little bit looser through 3 and 4 per se than maybe they do through 1 and 2. So as we watch Tyler Marble here continue to try to track down your leader, Austin Fitzgerald, you wonder at what point is somebody going to have to make an adjustment here? Otherwise, they maybe stay at a stalemate, as it looks like Tyler Marble kind of running in the footprints of Fitzgerald. And it's so interesting. Most tracks, you kind of see drivers on the throttle sliding up out of the corner. It's a little different here at Homestead. You almost have to have the car pointed straight and, kind of taking a straight angle out of the corner before you get back on the throttle. You try to get in the gas and slide up out of the corner, have a tendency to get these cars really loose and really out of shape in a hurry. Again, so far so good. Everybody doing a really nice job keeping it clean, keeping it green. As again, we only had that one caution earlier for trouble for the 9 of Mark Zabak, who got loose off of 4. Took a massive shot off the inside sand barrels. Didn't collect anybody else, but it did indeed bring out our one and only caution that we have had here tonight. Boy, Jeff Marble, good recovery. Already back up tonight, that he is on a mission now. You wonder if maybe he was trying to kind of save some stuff, but when he made that mistake, well, I say he's making up some ground back. He hasn't made up as much as the positions that he was up to, but I think he's going to get back there, because we almost saw some 3 wide. Jeff Marble is just tearing through the field right here. As you see Jake Hicks and Jared Bundy, maybe with a little bit of a bump draft right there down the backstretch. Quentin Clark still hanging around 4th, Michael Mueller in 5th. But the short run speed that these Riot Motorsports cars had is not really translating at all to the long run, at least not right now. And so they're going to probably be hoping that we either get another yellow or that they can get to this next green flag stop here relatively soon. 15, Jeff Marble ripping the wall. This is the view I've been waiting for. I keep trying to find a driver to go to that's been doing it, and it seems like every time I go to do so, we don't get it. Here's the right rear cam for Jeff Marble. And how about that one right there? Shows you how close he entered to the wall, but this time he's going to go back down to the inside. See what he decides to do here through 1 and 2 as we switch it over to the right front. And if he runs the wall this time, I can kind of show you a little bit of what I'm talking about. Look at the dashboard speeds, though, here at Homestead. Almost 180 down the straights, and still running very fast through the corner. And there you go. Jeff's going to ride it all the way up to the wall right here and then try to roll some speed off the corner. And what's so interesting, we don't see it as much here in the sim as, of course, you see it with the real-life Cup drivers in real life, but the closer you get to that outside wall, the more speed you run. And when you get really, really close, the idea is that there's a little bit of an air pocket there, and that air pocket's actually created by the cars that are running by it. When they start to push air against the wall, they create just a little bit of an air pocket that helps give kind of some side force or a cushion, as a lot of drivers like to call it. And so when you run close to the wall, you get that. The problem is if you, overshoot, get just a little bit too high, you kind of overstep that cushion, if you will. That's when you can run into trouble, run into the wall. And boy, when you get into the wall here, it just grabs you and kind of holds you in it. It takes a while to drive it off the wall after the damage has already been done, of course. And the other thing that you got to worry about is sailing it in too deep or maybe getting on the throttle a little bit too soon on exit. But how about this? GT Hawkins got around Tyler Marble, who it looked like had been tracking down that 74 machine. For GT Hawkins here, he knows that we have a pit stop sometime right around 10 to 20, maybe 10 to 15 laps from now. So the 5's going to try to apply the pressure here, but maybe just tap the wall right there off of 2. That allows Tyler Marble to close it in just a little bit. Boy, this is one of those tracks where, despite what we've seen kind of all season from Fitzgerald, he has not been able to fully pull away from these guys, and that's part of it right there. I mean, this 74 is really, really struggling on the exit of the corner. I'm interested to see if he's able to make an adjustment here, if he can hold on to that first pit stop. And if he makes that adjustment, does it help the car out a little bit? GT Hawkins doing a little bit of the opposite here. He is ripping the wall. Probably the driver that's ripping it the best of anyone right now. And you can see he's getting a little bit tight on entry, and then it just swings immediately to loose. The back tires, I don't want to give out, but going to take a different approach here as he gets closer. We'll see if Fitzgerald tries to adjust his line to maybe cut off some of the clean air that the rookie's getting on his nose right now. And if Fitzgerald doesn't get loose, seems like he's got good speed, and this is helping him right here. The 00 of Quentin Clark, where did he come from? We saw him hanging around the top 5, but he wants a little more. Now he's going to be hanging around inside the top 3 as he'll get that spot from Hawkins. Tyler Marble is going to try to make the move as well here. Can he get the momentum off at 2? He gets a little bit here, but he's not going to be able to hold even with the 5 down the backstretch. He'll have to duck back in line. And oh man, hold your horses here. A little bit of contact maybe. Man, Tyler Marble really encroached on the back bumper of GT Hawkins right there through the center of the corner. And you got to feel like Tyler maybe going to get a little frustrated here soon if Hawkins doesn't let him by, saying, hey man, you got by me, but now I'm faster. GT Hawkins, though, right now not wanting to give much, if any. As you saw that long black stripe along the wall, you saw another one there. That is the drivers who have already ran into that outside wall. And still side by side, the longer these two race, not only is it going to get frustrating for Tyler, but it's going to start to hurt their momentum as well. As you got to think about, can Danny Gutierrez, who's 2.5 seconds back, start to close in on these two? Quentin Clark's hoping that he can keep pulling away. And Austin Fitzgerald saying, why don't you all 3 battle back there so that he can try to extend his gap a little bit. So with 74 laps complete, again, we're about 10 laps or so away from that pit stop. Normally we'd pull up the schedule to show you what it's looking like, but with only 2 races left, really no point. Next week, again, in case you missed it, it's going to be off to Martinsville. And that'll be the last, well, not the last short track of the season, but the last track where I think we're going to see tempers flare to that degree with what we might have next week. And then it's off to, of course, the Desert and Phoenix Raceway for the Championship 4 and the Championship race. That is going to be a good one. Was a little skeptical about Phoenix when that was first changed over to the Championship, but man, it has not disappointed with the short track racing that it's able to provide. And it's interesting because it's a short track, but it kind of runs in certain points like 1.5 miles to a degree. I mean, runs like a short track in the corners, but the dog leg, I mean, we see speeds of upwards of over 160. So the cars certainly don't lack speed there. As Fitzgerald right now not lacking speed either. He's still holding on strong here. 1/2 second ahead of Quentin Clark. He's going to try to hold on here for 10 more laps. And I think if you're Quentin Clark, you go with the strategy of just match the 74. Whatever he does, I think that's what, the 00 should do here since he's closed it in this much. But, if Clark feels like he's got a better long-run car or a better short-run car, at that point, then I think maybe you try something a little different than the 74. And either if you feel like you got a better short-run car, maybe you try to pit a little bit sooner. If you feel like you've got a better long-run car, then maybe you try to pit a little bit later. We'll have to see, though. Still single file for most of the rest of the field. Michael Mueller, though, has gone in the opposite direction of where his teammate Quentin Clark has gone, as he is now back to the 12th position here, trying to grab 11th from the 17 of Kyle Oakley. Jacob Musso's there as well. Tracy Powers, the 37 of Brian Conklin, and the 39 of Ryan Haynes, all in a group right here. That's the battle for 14th. Johnny Mahalchuk, Brandon Saylor, and then Tai Iopolito, almost a little 3-wide action there with Cody Matthews and then one of the lappers, and Jeffrey Souza. By the way, Andrew Russo has since lost some laps here. Looks like, as it stands for now, only 1 lap down, and then Kenneth Bartholomew. I'm not really sure what happened here to the 73. Seems like he is temporarily disconnected. We'll see if he's able to get back in the session here without losing too many laps, hopefully. And for Fitzgerald, I mean, you've seen the glimpses of him being able to extend this gap, but the problem is he's just not been able to go enough laps without getting loose or having a brief issue. Bit of a block right there by Kyle Oakley down the back stretch. Oakley's going to be able to fend off Jacob Musso right there. If you're Kyle Oakley, I mean, you're coming out here with really nothing to lose. Had a big opportunity to advance to the round of 8. Things didn't work out. And wondered if he could have got here. Would this have been the year for Kyle Oakley to make it to that Championship 4? The way it didn't happen this time around, so it's going to be all about trophy hunting for these last couple of weeks. For Kyle Oakley, he's going to be hungry for it. See if he's able to go out there and get one before it's all said and done. And he came close a couple times this season. Don't forget, Bristol, the first Bristol race of the season, Talladega, second Bristol race of the season. I mean, all these tracks that there was something that didn't work out. At Talladega, it was a wreck right as he was shooting the gap to try to get the win. At Bristol, it was a mistake on the pits. It's just little things here and there that have unfortunately not quite panned out for Kyle Oakley. as the reasons that he, of course, didn't make it to the round of 8. We are now 80 of 134 laps through this 200-mile event. And Quentin Clark has now closed it up to really the smallest gap we've seen anybody have on Austin Fitzgerald up to this point. And you got to think that if you're Clark here, you're getting on the aggressive side here. You know that you got pit stops really, really soon. Get up here, try to apply some pressure to the 74. See if you can get him to make a mistake. And I like this. Late in the run, go up to the top side, try something. See if you can make the car make something happen. And look at the speed here. He's going to run down this 74 here, down the straights if he keeps running that high side. I mean, look at how much ground he's able to make up on Fitzgerald. He closes it up almost 0.2 of a second by taking the high side when they get onto the straightaway. And now he's going to try the inside here through 3 and 4. I think Fitzgerald maybe just a little bit better right there, but Clark isn't going to let him run away too much, if any. Of course, utilizing the drafts down the straight to help him close it up. I always thought that the paint scheme Quentin Clark runs is a little interesting. It's a Toyota Camry, but he's got the Subaru Impreza scheme on there to make it look like a Subaru Impreza. So kind of an interesting thing there. I wonder if the back, he got the taillights on it. Kind of. He's got the STI badge on there too. Either way, good looking paint scheme for Quentin Clark. So for Austin Fitzgerald here, you wonder if he's starting to feel the pressure. I know he's starting to certainly feel the tire wear, as we are at the point where I would say that, you know, the window's open to pit really any lap. Now, the other thing I may not have taken into account, which could be a possibility, is maybe the whole field runs this one as long as they can because they just don't like the way old tires feel. You don't want to have to do it again. So you go as long as you can now. That way you don't have to run quite as long on the, you know, final set of tires. That would be the other guess. But Fitzgerald will be coming to 84 of 134 laps complete this time. Do we see a pit stop? I thought maybe they were slowing up just for a second, but they are not. That is just how much the pace has fallen off. I mean, 34-second laps. I bet you these guys on new tires are somewhere in the 32s. Again, we'll get to see that after we see that pit stop. But, oh, man, what a move. I didn't even catch that. Got caught looking at the data. Quentin Clark, how about that one? He's going to take the lead off of that. Watch this. Down the straightaway here, he's going to get a big run. He tries the old slide job here on Fitzgerald, and he makes it work. Watch this. Big run. He's going to draft all the way up. As they get into the corner, he's going to send it in, and I don't know if Fitzgerald expected him to send it in that far. I mean, he even ducks 2 tires on the apron to make that stick. Then he washes up a little bit. Fitzgerald's going to try to come back on the inside, but Quentin Clark with the outside keeps the momentum, keeps that position. Fitzgerald now in the pits, as Clark is currently being scored as your leader. Looks like Alan Pajari, Dynamic Autosports teammate to Fitzgerald. He'll pit. Here comes Johnny Mahalchuk as well. And so the pit stops will be kicked off here with what was the leader of the race all until 1 lap ago. Austin Fitzgerald, he'll drive into his box. That's the 3rd box, a pretty good pit stall to have here. We'll see if he can get out just as clean as he got in. This is a dicey pit road here because you do have to take the access road, so got to be really, really careful coming out on these cold tires. No banking, all while trying to make as much speed as you can. Watch this here for Austin Fitzgerald. Here you go. So he works his way out, and now he's going to have to go around this flat access road here before he's able to get back on the banking, and he's really trying to get on the gas, and it is just not one to cooperate with him here. Looking to work back on the flat. He finally will. Back up to full gas. So there you go. Now we're going to see some more pit stops here. Tyler Marble, GT Hawkins, Quentin Clark, Jeff Shutt, Brian Conklin, Jake Hickson, Cody Matthews, and Thomas O'Hara all in the pits now. That leaves just a few drivers remaining on the racetrack. Danny Gutierrez, Jacob Musso, Jeff Marble. Ooh, Marble's going to try to bring it down to the pits. Oh, man. Wow, did that look close. From that view, Jeff Marble is coming in hot. This is a very, very tricky pit road. Comes up on you quick. And let's see if this was as close from his view as it certainly looked from mine. Watch this here. Hard on the brakes, trying to correct, trying to get down. And I would argue that that pretty much was just as close from our view as it was from his. Man, oh man. So Danny Gutierrez still out on the racetrack. Know that 08's going to have to come in relatively soon. The 95 still out as well. It looks like Jacob Musso, he'll bring it down, and then Ty Iopolito, that'll leave him out on the racetrack. Michael Mueller has yet to pit as well. So it's Austin Fitzgerald. Well, Michael Mueller, has he yet to pit here? Yes, he is. Yeah, Michael Mueller has not pit yet. So Musso makes his stop. Now that just leaves Danny Gutierrez, Ty Iopolito, and Michael Mueller as the cars that still need to come down to the pits for full service. And so let's compare some of these lap times on old tires versus new tires. So here you go. Danny Gutierrez, 34.869. car that's on fresh tires, Austin Fitzgerald. Look at that, 33. It's going to be a little faster this time now that those tires are up to temp. 33.2. Actually, it was faster his first lap. So that fall off is not actually quite as bad as I was expecting it to be. I mean, the pace is still certainly slowed, but I thought for sure it'd be closer to 2 seconds for these drivers. Looks more so like it's somewhere right around a second and a half. So again, not quite as bad as initially thought. That's going to be interesting here, but we'll have to see what happens. See what this lap is for Fitzgerald before we go back. Jeff Marble, who sits in 15th there, saw him shaking his head over in the driver cam. Not sure what happened. Yeah, so 33.4 is where it's going to hang around. Jeff Marble back in 15th now. Not sure if he had any issues on that pit stop or if this is just how far back it cycles him out, but I'm not sure if he's going to need a caution, but he's certainly going to have to make up quite a bit of ground here in what is just 45 laps left to go in this race. Tai Ippolito saw a little scrape along the outside safer barrier right there. Watch for Danny Gutierrez to bring it down this time. The 08, he has got to be getting low on fuel. Oh, man, trouble with one further up front there. Trying to figure out who that was. That was Greg Bartlett in the 77, I believe. Yeah, the 77 had started to loop it around on entry to the pits, and looks like he decided to tow from there. Watch it. Trying to get down to speed, gets on the apron, and car just goes round on him, goes for a slide. I would have thought he's okay there. I'm a little surprised to see him tow that. I think if he does a little burnout right there, straightens it out, certainly doesn't lose nearly as much time as you do when you decide to tow the car. So a tough break there for Greg Bartlett, one of your non-playoff drivers who was running inside the top 25 at the time of that issue. So 92 of 134 laps complete. Still some pit stops to be made here from your top three. And I mean, I'm surprised that they're even still out there at this rate. Danny Gutierrez, Michael Mueller, Austin Fitzgerald. And they're going to have to pit here sooner or later. I just don't see any other way around it. You've only got so much fuel in the tank. And is Michael Mueller going to bring it down this time? He does not. Stays out yet again. And I think once you see Danny Gutierrez come down, maybe that's when we also see the 99 come down. But Gutierrez still out. And, this strategy, the idea here is just that you're hoping for a late caution, right? And, we're at the point of almost 40 laps to go. Any caution at this point, I would say it counts as a relatively late race caution. As there you're going to see the difference between newer and older tires as Jeff Shutt just going to roll right around the outside here of Danny Gutierrez. Oh, well. Man, Danny slid up. Jeff Shutt's going to have to cross him over instead. It's a 16 of Jay Kickson. It's going to look to the inside. And look at them. They just march right by him. New tires here, you can wrap the bottom. Old tires, you're struggling just to keep the car on the racetrack. Still no pit stop yet. Tai Ippolito has now taken over second from the 99 of Michael Mueller. And for Austin Fitzgerald, he is now 27.2 seconds behind your leader. So if Gutierrez, in theory, just somehow never pit here the rest of the way through, well, Fitzgerald would still catch him at this rate. But obviously we expect a pit stop here sooner or later as Michael Mueller continues to fall back. He is now only about 2 seconds ahead of Austin Fitzgerald. And sure enough, here we go. The 08, Danny Gutierrez. He's finally going to make that pit stop right here. For Danny, this was a pit stop that was much overdue. This will be his final service, 4 tires and fuel. Before he brings it down, Danny Gutierrez will relinquish the lead. Tai Ippolito follows him down to the pits. Let's see, does Michael Mueller decide to do the same right here? Does he stay out as well? The 99 will stay out yet again. So at this rate, Austin Fitzgerald's just going to kind of pass him the natural way. You see him on the same straight now. And I wonder, I'm going to try to look at this here on our data. Sometimes we miss things. And part of me wonders, was there a pit stop, and was it just a really, really early pit stop here for Michael Mueller? It looks like that might be what it is here. So watch Michael Mueller. This was under green. This was really, really early on. There goes the 95 down to the pits. So that's your answer, and that's why we see the 99 still out, and that's why the gap has closed up to what it is. So Michael Mueller went with the strategy of pitting extremely early. That got him a huge gap when the cycle first ended. But now, as those tires start to wear out, these guys are reeling him back in. And for Fitzgerald, just under a second and a half behind here. He's going to be there, and I would say, just another 2 to 5 laps from now, depending on how quickly the tires fall off here from the 99. So when Fitzgerald gets there, if you're Mueller, what do? I mean, you can only defend so much. So do you just give him the spot? Do you try to defend a little bit, hold him off just for a lap or two? You know that you're not going to have a chance to pit again. So for Mueller, you know, I like the gamble, but I don't know if it's the right gamble, if that makes any sense. It's just, you know, and I couldn't have told you how well tire strategies were going to work out. I mean, we broke down what the different strategies were, but for Mueller, you know, he probably felt like he had to try something. This may have been his best bet, and unfortunately, I just don't think it's going to work out. I think it's actually going to hurt him more than it would have helped him right here, but, I mean, the 99, before that green flag stop, he had been falling back and falling pretty far back for that matter, so he had to throw caution to the wind somehow, and this is his way of doing it. And now that gap is down to about 1.3 seconds here. Gap between Michael Mueller, your leader, and second place Austin Fitzgerald. Just 2 laps away from hitting that infamous lap 100 mark. Once drivers get to that point, they know 34 laps to go. Ooh, heard some contact there a bit further back. Not sure if somebody got into the wall or what happened. Either way, looks like everybody's okay. This is 17 of Kyle Oakley, but once you hit that lap 100 marker, that's where you kind of start to flip the switch. 34 to go. It's starting to creep up on go time. I think, you know, that final lap for me was always 25. When you hit 25 to go, it's all right, we're going. It's on from here. And again, not much time, but Fitzgerald continues to close this gap now. He's got it down to almost a second, and I would look for that to continue to close here as the laps continue to wind down. So as they cross the line here, 100 of 134 laps complete. It's Michael Mueller, Austin Fitzgerald, and GT Hawkins making up your podium. We're going to take another quick side-by-side break. Stick with us here at Homestead Miami.
In early 2020 by owner Kyle Souza. Souza Media has grown quickly over the past 4 years, now representing multiple champions across different series, from the local short tracks of New England to the high banks of Daytona Beach, Florida. Social media is an important way to draw in new audiences and increase reach, and with a new snappy, user-friendly website, Souza Media can boost your audience by using eye-catching graphics to gain recognition for your brand. Contact Souza Media today using our Facebook page or by email at kylesouzamedia@gmail.com to put your brand in victory lane.
Welcome back to Homestead Miami Speedway. 105 of 134 laps complete. And that means just 30 to go here in the BMP Homestead 200. Well, you saw it all while we were on Souza Media non-stop here tonight. And Austin Fitzgerald was able to make the pass on the 99 of Michael Mueller, who now sits second. Now, I will say, and again, there's a lot of factors that still have to play out. Watching the 99 here, not looking as bad as it initially did. The problem here, and the thing I'm still worried about, is, 30 laps, now 29. That's still a long ways to go. That's a lot of fall off for these tires. So while he hasn't fallen off as quickly as I thought he would, there's still a lot of time that this 99 car is going to have to try to hold on while going backwards. And you can see now the 5 of GT Hawkins is going to sneak by, as will the 00 here of Quentin Clark. And so Clark set to have fresher tires here than the 74. You wonder, how does this play out here? Because he's still racing against a rookie, GT Hawkins, and then Fitzgerald up there is going to try to a point where nobody can make a comeback late in the race. Now, if we get a caution, that changes things up. As see Quentin Clark this time, he's going to peek his nose out to the inside of the racetrack. GT Hawkins staying high. Can Quentin Clark get the clear here? He's going to try it off the corner. Boy, it was close. Quentin Clark, if he slides up, sure enough he will, so he's got it. There you go. Quentin Clark moves to second. And now the final, I don't want to call it the final battle, but the final chance and the final stage has been set here for who is going to win this race. You've got 2 playoff drivers in the top 2. These 2 have proven over this entire green flag run that we have now had, they are the 2 fastest cars on the racetrack. Hawkins has been close, but in terms of playoff drivers, it has been Fitzgerald and Quentin Clark. Clark had to track Fitzgerald down during the last run, seemed a little better at the end of the run, and he's got slightly fresher tires. But now, with coming up on what's going to be 25 laps to go in just a couple laps here, Clark still has over a 1.5-second deficit that he's got to make up here on the 74 of Austin Fitzgerald. And you don't want to overuse your stuff, but at what point do you start really trying to find something here, whether it's sticking to the top, staying on the bottom, pushing these tires, or staving them? I don't know, but either way, Quentin Clark here, he's going to have to buckle down and start finding some speed soon here if he wants a chance to track down the 74. And, I know Clark, one of the drivers who's still close on points, but technically he is still out, so him winning would shake off those top 4, pushing, which right now I believe is Tyler Marble, the last man in the good, to being out, even though Tyler's got a good run going here tonight, sitting in that 4th spot. And so Tyler Marble, who I don't think is going to have anything to catch these leaders, unless we get a caution, of course, but 25 laps to go now is the call here at Homestead Miami. The gap still hanging right around 1.6. We'll be keeping an eye on this here as these laps continue to wind down, but a brief race update in case you missed any of the action here tonight. 1 caution to date. I guess I should say to date, but so far in the race, we've only had that 1 caution. It was an incident involving the 9 of Mark Zabak. Got loose off of 4, hit the barrels, and then as he came back up on the racetrack, he did bring out the caution. He was the only car involved in that incident. Since then, it has been all clean and green. And we had ourselves a green flag pit stop, which is what has led us to the point where we are at now, where Austin Fitzgerald finds himself over a 1.5 seconds ahead of 2nd place Quentin Clark. Some of the drivers who have retired from the race: Mark Zabak, Jeffrey Souza, Kenneth Bartholomew, and Greg Bartlett. Scott Glasso still in the field, but he is 24th and 16 laps down. Andrew Russo right now currently sitting in the pits, so he is retired from the race as it stands for now. Thomas O'Hara, who's in 22nd, is currently the last car on the racetrack at the moment. Cody Matthews is in 21st. Ty Iopolito's in 20th. You've got Brett Spod in 19th. Johnny Mahalchuk in 18th. Brian Conklin 17th with Brandon Saylor 16th. Danny Gutierrez in 15th. Tracy Powers in 14th. Jacob Musso 13th with Kyle Oakley in 12th. Ryan Haynes in 11th. Jeff Marble in 10th. For Jeff Marble here, he is really running close to that wall. What's up on board is, big slip up. Oh, Jeff, he's going to tag the outside wall right there. That's a mistake. And luckily, though, I don't think it's going to cost him a position here. And notice what he just did right there. He goes back to the bottom. As a driver, I'm telling you, it can make you a little nervous, get you, I don't know if the word's scared, but it can certainly make you kind of want to rethink running that high side after you go into the wall. You hear drivers say all the time that you got to kind of work up to it. You can't just jump straight up to the outside wall. You got to kind of slowly work closer and closer to it. And sometimes you get a little too close. That's what we saw there for Jeff. And when he hit it, took a breath, said, okay, let me go back to the bottom here through 3 and 4, kind of regroup, regather. And now it looks like he's right back up to run on the top in 1 and 2. And looks like he's going to stick with the bottom here through 3 and 4. Alan Bajari is currently sitting in 9th. Jared Bundy 8th. Jeff Shutt now up to 7th. So the 27 has found that speed that we felt like he was maybe lacking a little bit of earlier. So a good run right now for the 27 of Jeff Shutt. Then you got Jake Hickson in 6th. Michael Mueller in 5th with Tyler Marble 4th. GT Hawkins 3rd. Quentin Clark still in 2nd. And they are all still chasing the man out front, Austin Fitzgerald. And for Fitzgerald, he is now going to be coming to 20 laps to go. For Quentin Clark, that gap has been hanging still right around 1.5 seconds. No major gain. He's going to have to pick it up pretty soon. And right now, he can afford to make up just a little bit less than 1/10 of a second per lap. But if he's not making time every lap, then that's going to quickly become 1/10. So he's going to have to gain 2/10, then 3/10. Next thing you know, he's going to have to pick up half a second a lap to get there. There's a little bit further back. You saw GT Hawkins there jump down low to grab a draft off of one of the lappers there. Scott Glasso. Try to maintain some speed. So for GT Hawkins, I mean, he cannot be disappointed in this run. And I'm telling you, if we had, I don't think we will. I know the broadcaster's jinx can be a little gnarly sometimes, but I don't think we will. If we somehow, though, had a late caution, I mean, this would be probably one of the wildest restarts that you would see all season. I mean, this track, we saw it in the real-life race. It's so wide, and the progressive banking just adds to how aggressive you can be on these restarts. They are so fun to watch. But at this rate, it's looking like the 2nd week in a row that we are going to see a long, mostly green flag race with strategy and long runs being kind of king. But then next week at Martinsville, you wonder if that's the case. You heard Jeff Marble note in the interview, post-race interview last week, that the last couple seasons they have been clean at Martinsville, but you just never know there. That is a track where it seems like when you start to get a couple cautions, things just snowball in a hurry. And that's why we talked so much here tonight about trying to get yourself in position to win this race. That way you don't have to stress and worry about next week. And now, Quentin Clark, well, let's see what he gets here off of 4. I was getting ready to say he closed it up a little bit, but it's looking like maybe he didn't. I thought he gained a couple of tenths right there. And for Clark, I mean, he's still running the bottom here, and he's kind of running the line where you kind of dive it in on entry so that you can kind of work up on exit instead of taking that big wide arc on entry. And at some point here, if it doesn't work, I think I'd like to see him try to get back to that high side. Certainly feel like a lot of drivers can run pretty good momentum there, but who knows, maybe he still feels like it's not late enough to push these tires just yet. And if that is indeed the case right here, he could be saving until we get to, I don't know, maybe 12, 10 laps to go, and then at that point you got to start going for it and just hope that it's enough. But for Fitzgerald, I don't know if he made an adjustment, you know, under the hood or in the suspension, or if he made an adjustment in the cockpit, but he has done a much better job. And I feel like it's always hard to kind of make these critiques of drivers who you just feel like are almost always perfect and so good everywhere you go. But I mean, for what I'm seeing, at least right now, Fitzgerald has done a phenomenal job of making this adjustment. And you see this car now, at this point in the run, before they pit, he would have been all over the place trying to hold on, and that was part of the reason Quentin Clark was able to track him down. But you're noticing now, look how smooth the wheel and throttle inputs are. I mean, you are not seeing much hiccuping at all for Fitzgerald. There's the throttle input. You see him, you know, obviously has to work the wheel a little bit off the corner, but you're not seeing the back end jump around nearly as much as it was at the end of that last run before he was able to come in for fuel and tires. And so whatever kind of adjustment it was, Austin Fitzgerald trying to hold on. As maybe I should not look at him too long. Looks like maybe starting to jinx him there, as that time it did look like the car jumped around a little bit off the floor, and that cost him a bit of time, as now Quentin Clark has closed it in to about 1.2 seconds. There's Scott Glasso on older tires here. Glasso, or excuse me, on fresher tires, I meant to say, so he'll get here and shoot right by the 00. But look at that. Clark chose the high side and kept him about even, maybe gained just a little bit. And now he's going to shoot it back to the bottom here. So they'll be coming to 13 laps to go as Fitzgerald crosses the line this time. 13 laps to go and still really only 2 cars in the mix. GT Hawkins over 3.5 seconds back. So for GT Hawkins, it's all about holding on to a podium at this point. And he's going to have to fend off Tyler Marble, who sits about 2 seconds back from where he currently runs. Jake Hickson back in 5th. Michael Mueller's in 6th. Jeff Shutt 7th with Jared Bundy in 8th. Kyle Oakley in 9th. And Danny Gutierrez rounding out your top 10. Well, I mean, what a season it's been for Austin Fitzgerald up to this point. You talk about over 10 wins. I mean, you got to really think about that in a race that's, or a season that's only 30-something races. For a driver to get over 10 wins and still not be done yet just necessarily, I mean, that just shows you how much he's developed, just from last season to this season, where we saw the speed. We saw him kind of as your championship favorite in the championship race last season. Doesn't work out. And so he takes that fire and uses it to put on what has been pretty much an absolute clinic of the season up to this point, to the point where, for most guys, you feel like making it to the championship has to count as a successful season. And by no means am I trying to degrade Austin Fitzgerald if he does make it, but I think he's got to feel like if he doesn't win it, it's kind of a little bit of a loss of a season for the amount of speed that he's had all year. But that's part of the game, and for Quentin Clark here, still, not really closing it up as much as I feel like he maybe needs to be, but he's got it down to almost a second now. And you wonder, does Scott Glasso help the 0-0 here? Glasso's going to think about it. Look at this. Scott Glasso maybe going to do a little bit of pushing here to the 0-0. He thought about jumping to the inside, but he didn't do it right there. I don't know how much he's going to help him. We saw Blaney do something semi-similar at Vegas for Joey Logano, but these two, of course, not teammates. Scott Glasso actually one of the playoff drivers, but just so many laps down that at this point he's just racing just to make it to the finish. So for Quentin Clark right here, 10 laps to go. What you got? Can he find a way to make it happen here? Tires are worn out. Drivers have been racing so long that mentally they're probably worn out. But a chance to lock yourself in the next round of a championship. And remember, for Quentin Clark, he really didn't actually make the pass on that 74 until the last couple laps before that pit stop. So you still wonder if maybe in the last 3 laps, all of a sudden the 0-0 makes a surge. Certainly wouldn't want to rely on that, but I mean, if you're Clark here, he knows he's going to have to try something. He's been working inside, outside, everything between. Glasso's been trying to push him. But I'm still thinking that, if Fitzgerald doesn't make any sort of major mistake, that he might have enough of a gap here to hold off the 0-0 for the rest of this race. Here's Tyler Marble and Jake Hickson, and boy, I mean, what is it with Jake Hickson? He starts so far back in the field in these races, and it seems like he's, back there until all of a sudden we get to that last run of the race, and then next thing you know, here he is fighting for a top 5 finish. Jake Hickson in 5th right now, but he's looking for 4th. He's up 15 positions from where he started this race at, as he's going to try to jump to the outside right here of Tyler Marble. Oh, can't make it happen, but gave a big shot to the back of the 48 right there. So while those two continue to duel up front, got down to 0.8 of a second now as Austin Fitzgerald caught a lapper here. It's the 07 of Thomas O'Hara. You wonder, is the dirty air going to affect him here just a little bit? Austin Fitzgerald's going to take the middle. He doesn't want any part of it. Now Thomas O'Hara slides up to the middle. Boy, this is not what Fitzgerald wants to see. This is costing him all sorts of time. That was a bad spot that Austin Fitzgerald caught O'Hara off of 4. Now Quentin Clark's going to narrow it down to just over half a second. And for Quentin Clark, man, oh man, how big a win this would be for him. We've seen him in victory lanes a couple of times this season, but none as of recent. And if you're going to have a time to get back, boy, tonight would be tonight. Thomas O'Hara, though, still kind of standing in the way. And if you're Quentin Clark, he is probably screaming over the radio, get out of the way. But Thomas O'Hara, is he going to give Clark any sort of a break? Doesn't look like it, not this time. Now looks like Thomas is going to jump to the inside, and sure enough, he'll let the 0-0 go. And that's sometimes the unfortunate thing about being a leader, that you're always going to get raced the hardest by lappers, because they know if they can stay in front of you, they're still on the lead lap. Once they lose that lead lap, no point really fighting anybody else, because, well, you're not really fighting for the lead lap anymore. Well, after that gap got down to about 0.6 of a second, again, it has hit kind of a wall, a plateau. And so again, Quentin Clark's going to have to try to dig just a little bit deeper. And, you kind of watch that scoring tower when that gap shrinks versus when it extends. Clark is better on entry than Fitzgerald. The problem is he's trading off that speed, at least right now, through the center and then exit of the corner. So we'll see if he decides to back it up or try a different line. Yeah, there you go. 0-0 back to the high side. Let's see if he's able to get any sort of run right here off the corner. He got a little bit of a one. What does he trim the gap down to this time? Looks like he gets it down to almost under half a second. Man, I think I'd really like to see Clark continue to run that high side, but he's trying to keep Austin Fitzgerald guessing as to which lane he's going to take. And boy, Fitzgerald ran a really good corner right there. He's going to stretch that out a little bit, as they are now going to come to 3 laps to go here at Homestead. And with just 3 laps to go, if you're Fitzgerald, the other thing that you really don't want to see right now is that caution flag, knowing how aggressive some of these guys would be. I mean, you've got 4 of your playoff drivers that are all trying to lock in inside the top 5. So if you're Fitzgerald, you want to keep this between you and the 00. Obviously, he wants to get it himself here, but definitely doesn't want to see a caution right now, as the gap that time got under half a second, but he's going to lose a little bit there on exit again. 2 laps to go, and I'm telling you, Quentin Clark, he is pushing for all he is worth. Who has the tires to make it last? Quentin Clark, he's going to go back to the high side here through 1 and 2. If he can keep from getting loose on exit, that is going to be the key. A couple lappers still in the picture, and it looked like Clark did a really good job right there of getting off the corner. Pulls it into high gear. Still half a second, though. This time he's going to go back to the inside. Fitzgerald, a little bit of an awkward line into the corner. That allows Clark to close it up a little bit more. Is he going to be close enough? We're getting ready to find out. White flag is in the air. 1 lap to go at Homestead. Brian Conklin, will he stay out of the way here? I believe he will. Conklin's going to go to the high side. Clark's going to dive low. Still 0.4 of a second. We saw Tyler Reddick pull off a crazy move on Sunday. Does Quentin Clark have anything else that he can try right here? Final time as they're going to work into turn 3. Watch for the 00. What does he do? Does he send it in deep up top? He will not. Tries the regular line one more time, and it will not be enough. Austin Fitzgerald is going to add to the win tally yet again, but this time it'll officially punch his ticket to Phoenix. Austin Fitzgerald wins it at Homestead. Well, each win means something, but the one that punches the ticket to the championship 4 means just a little bit more. He will be the first of the 4 drivers that we now officially know we will be seeing fight for a championship in Phoenix, and it's almost poetic justice. As good as this 74 was all season, almost feels like you can't really have it any other way. But man, for the 00 of Quentin Clark, what a fight, what an effort from the 00 team today. GT Hawkins with a great finish as he rounds out the podium. But it is going to be Austin Fitzgerald who brings it around to burn it down here tonight. Again, he is your race winner. So as he will start the celebration, start the burnout, let's take a look at tonight's finishing results. Austin Fitzgerald, he is your race winner. Quentin Clark in second. GT Hawkins back in third with Jake Hicks in fourth. Tyler Marble in fifth. Danny Gutierrez sixth with Jeff Shutt in seventh. Then it's Jacob Musso back in eighth. Kyle Oakley ninth. And Michael Mueller rounding out your top 10. Alan Bajari finishes back in 11th. It's going to be Jeff Marble in 12th with Tracy Powers in 13th. Ryan Haynes back in 14th. Brandon Saylor in 15th. Ty Iopolito 16th. Johnny Mahalchuk in 17th. Cody Matthews is in 18th. And then moving on back and rounding out the top 20 here tonight, it's going to be Brian Conklin and Thomas O'Hara. 21st, Brett Spod. 22nd, Jared Bundy. Scott Glasso 23rd. Andrew Russo 24th. Greg Bartlett in 25th with Kenneth Bartholomew 26th. Jeffrey Souza in 27th. Mark Sabak rounds out the field in 28th. Anthony Hanley rounds out the field. He finishes in 29th. All right, well, we're going to go grab your top 3 for interviews. Stick with us. We'll be right back at Homestead. All right, and we'll kick things off tonight with your race winner. It's Austin Fitzgerald. Austin, this is Austin in the booth. You got a copy. And we'll give him just another moment here. Oh, I think I figured out why we can't hear him, so we'll go ahead and fix that here. All right, there we go. Hey, Austin, this is Austin up in the booth. You got a copy?
Hey, Austin, I do.
Well, you get the win here tonight, and man, as many wins as you've had all season, how big was this one, knowing that you have now officially locked your ticket to Phoenix?
Yeah, no, that's a relief for sure. So I could just focus on Phoenix now, you know, getting some setups ready for that, which is nice. Get a week jump on that. Yeah, that race, that wasn't a given, you know. I mean, Clinton was running me down there. He's making me push a lot harder than I wanted to. And man, those lap cars were kind of difficult to get around, especially with the dirty air and stuff. And yeah, Quentin was just phenomenal in the long run tonight. But But yeah, I know it would have been big for him to win. That would put him at Phoenix. But honestly, I know he's good at Phoenix. I don't know if I want to see him in the Final Four there.
Yeah, I mean, I'll tell you what, you were both fast tonight, but I think the big question is, the long runs here at Homestead, how tricky are they from your point of view? I mean, we saw you even when you were in the lead with clean air getting loose coming off of turn 4.
Man, turn 4 was it was my weak point for sure. I even, with it being hotter weather than I was used to all week, I even ran a tighter set today. And it felt pretty good for the most part. But yeah, turn 4, I mean, even earlier in the week, turn 4 has always been my struggle just coming off of it. But yeah, no, I mean, this track, you really just have to drive it within yourself. As soon as, you start driving it on the limit, especially earlier in the run, you really pay for it on the back end. So those times I was getting the loosest off of turn 4 is when I probably ran a little too hard in the beginning. And then when we came out of the pits, I think Quentin and maybe Tyler had an issue getting onto pit road. And that was really big because, one, I was able to, short pit him a bit and gain maybe a second there, but then I think they probably lost a second or so getting on pit road. I have to go back and see what happened, if anything did happen. But having that 2 to 3 second gap on them coming out of the pits just allowed me to save a little bit more, which is what I think gave me the edge to win it.
Well, again, potentially your biggest win of the season by locking yourself into the championship 4. So before we let you head out to go celebrate and get prepared, is there anyone you want to thank or shout out?
As always, Dynamic Auto Sports, rooting for those guys. We have Jake and Ty still in this, and I don't know if Ty finished mid-pack, but Jake had a great race today, so he should be looking pretty good in points, and maybe we'll see if we get Ty a win next week at Martinsville. That'd be awesome. And then, as always, thanks to everybody who's always showing up week in, week out, and thanks to the league admins, Jeff and Tyler, for putting this on every week. There's a lot of work between this and the Truck Series. So, yeah.
And Austin, thank you for talking to us again. Congrats on the win here tonight, and we'll see you next week at Martinsville.
See you then.
All right, now that's going to bring us to your second place finisher here tonight, Quentin Clark. Quentin, this is Austin in the booth. You got a copy?
I got you, Austin.
Well, we just heard from Austin. Boy, he was complimenting the speed that you had here tonight, especially in the long run. And man, we saw you track him down before the pit stop. Do you think with a couple more laps you could have tracked him down that time?
I don't know. I was giving it everything I had. I was dirt tracking it the whole time. Maybe it would have been fun to see if we had. It may have taken another 20 laps the way the first round went.
Well, either way, I mean, it's a good second place finish. I know how big a win would have been here tonight to get yourself locked in, but do you feel like you came into this race just a little bit below the cut line? Does this kind of help boost the confidence going into Martinsville? And what's going to be the strategy for a track that really anything can go wrong at any moment at?
Yeah, it's tough, man, with no stage points. You got to be perfect because, I mean, you look at your top 5, you got Austin and Jake and Tyler right there. So, P2 is like, if I'm not going to win, I have to probably do this again next week because if I don't, they will. So that's kind of the way that I'm looking at it. This felt more like a must-win for Mueller, and we worked our butts off on the setup this week. Spent hours and hours and hours, and trying to see if we could get him a win, and it just it feels like we're both in a must-win, as competitive as it is. You could be 1 point out, and it feels like a must-win.
Well, it may very well be that. Next week's going to be crazy, but hey, overall tonight, still a great run with a good second place finish. And before we let you head out, is there anyone you want to thank or shout out?
Yeah, huge thanks to the team. Again, like I said, we spent hours, Mueller and I, just working on setups. We built this from scratch this week. He found an old one that he liked, and I actually turned this from our Nashville setup. So it's just kind of been weird, but big shout out to them. Big shout out to my family, my wife and my dad, especially my mom, watch every week, and appreciate my wife putting the kiddo to bed. Got Mach 5 design on the car today, and Bon Fire. You can catch her music on Spotify, and big thanks to everybody who's helped me get this far.
Quentin, thank you for talking to us again. Congrats on the second place finish, and we will see you next week at Martinsville.
Appreciate you, man.
All right, now that's going to bring us up to your third place finisher, the final man on the podium tonight, and that's GT Hawkins. GT, this is Austin up in the booth. You got a copy?
Gotcha.
Well, non-playoff driver with playoff driver speed here tonight. You bring home a third place finish. How'd you feel about the car tonight?
Yeah, I'm new to the open setup world. This is completely different than what I'm used to. So I've been having not great runs since I've been in the league here, and yeah, it was nice to be able to keep up with everybody at least. And I'm just out here trying to learn and stay out of all the playoff drivers' way.
Well, we saw balance be an issue for quite a few drivers tonight, and you say that you're new and you're still learning, and what do you think is kind of the most difficult part of open setups? I mean, from the broadcast view, it always seems like we see a lot of transitions between guys that have short run speed versus guys that have long run speed. Seemed like you had a little bit of both here tonight. Was that kind of the game plan?
I think the last run, I wasn't chasing anybody, so I just ran it too hard, I think. So I don't even know if I could have saved enough to stay competitive with them at the end there, because they just walked on me. It was crazy. Yeah, I mean, early on, the first run, I felt like I did the best all night, and I think everybody was just cruising then. And then after the first caution, then everybody put the pedal down, and then I had a lot tougher time keeping up. But it was a good race. Car felt good overall, and I'm looking forward to the last couple of races here for sure.
Absolutely. Well, hey, to cap off a good podium finish here tonight, is there anyone you want to thank or shout out?
Yeah, I got to thank Glory Pole and Jeff and everybody for putting this on. Appreciate everybody and everybody for having me.
GT, thank you for talking to us again. Congrats on the third place finish. We'll see you next week at Martinsville.
Thanks. See ya.
All right. Well, that is going to wrap up our coverage here tonight from Homestead Miami Speedway. And again, another race that does not disappoint. It was a phenomenal finish. We saw Austin Fitzgerald be the first of the playoff drivers to lock his ticket to Phoenix. We'll see if we have another playoff driver lock themselves in with a win next week, or if it's a points battle to decide the remaining three. As always, thank you all so much for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed. That's it for me, Austin Green, here on Ghost Racing Network. Until next time, have a good night.